Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Commander's Forge. My name is Andy Bentley, and the Forge is an area for me to talk about Magic, Commander, and anything else while I try and drag this whole mental health thing back to where it's supposed to be. Now, today I want to talk about particularly people like me who tend to get so many ideas and brewing and stuff like that. It's not bad to take decks apart to put new decks together, because I've fallen into this trap in the past and I'm trying to be better about it. So recently, and by recently I mean like over the last week, I went through, pulled apart like 5 decks to put together 4 decks that I had been working on. So I just kind of went through my drawer of decks and was like, oh, yeah, I played this one. It never really performed well. I'm just gonna pull that one apart. Or I opened another one. And I was like, you performed too well, and it just got to the point where I didn't want to play you anymore. And then I found a couple of my old League decks that League had fallen apart, so I just kind of didn't need them anymore. So I ended up taking apart the Yargle and Multani, which is the like 18/6 vanilla creature that was one of my old League decks, and the 5 mana Judith that whenever you cast a spell, it either gets lifelink and death touch, or you make a 2/2 imp. I took that one apart. And those were old League decks that I just never got around to taking apart. There was another deck that was built from a League deck that, again, performed well, but I just didn't enjoy playing it all that much, and that was the 2 mana Wrath that whenever you cast instant or sorcery, you can tap 2 creatures to draw a card. Again, it did the thing. I didn't find it enjoyable to play. And then, yeah, so I ended up taking apart just a bunch of decks, going through stuff, pulling stuff I wanted to move to other decks, and instead put together some decks that I had been looking for, or things that I had started building but then just kind of stopped, like Choco Seeker of Paradise. I finally got that one put together. I got the Felothar Dawn of the Absan together. Let's see what else. I did the Oron Venerated Warrior. Anyway, and I put together the Arwen Undamel, which is the green-blue elf deck. And I also took parts and pieces from that stuff I took apart for a Raphael Fiendish Savior. So these are now decks that are going to go into like my quiver that will go to like F&M with me, and I'll use them probably for the next like 3 months, and I'll kind of dial in, okay, well, this one needs a little support here, or this one's too slow. I need to find a way to like speed this up. Maybe I just need to add some faster mana. And who knows, maybe of the 4 decks that I put together, with the 5th one being one that I slightly updated, I might find one that I enjoy playing so much that it becomes part of my, what do I want to call it? Like my always roster. So far, that has 3 decks on it. 3 decks that just will not get taken apart. The first one on that is Linden. I'm always tuning Linden to be just the nastiest mono white deck I can. And unfortunately, Goreclaw's kind of at the point where it's really hard to find anything to cut to put in new big green monsters, but Goreclaw is also always put together, and Adeliz the Cinderwind. It's very rare to get a spell that's good enough to make me change that deck, because it's red, blue wizards tempo. It just, play Adeliz, pump her up to kill the first person, and then value grind out the other two. It just, yeah. It's still one of my favorites. And I have others that are creeping towards that are just like, when people talk about me, this gets brought up. Like my 5-color, unfortunately, a couple of my 5-color decks are moving that way. Like I have 5-color slivers. That's my go-to if people want to play like a higher energy, higher power game. I've got allies that I'm in the midst of updating. I'm missing like 12 cards from the Avatar set. And that was like an old... I was known for playing 5-color allies. Then we've got my 5-color Gates deck, which is like a menace in my local gaming store. All that to say, experimenting is great. But don't lock yourself into having 40-something decks. Particularly if you're not going to invest in them. Like, I have like 30-ish decks. But what I'll do is I'll take 5 at a time. I'll say, okay, I'm playing you 5 for the next couple of months. And then I'll rotate out and be like, okay, well, let's move this one out, put this one in, move this one out, put this one in. That way I can kind of find any that I've kind of fallen off on. And like, I know there's still some like in the back of my head that I still want to do, like Heir Apparent deck. I have a thought for that. And I know I want to update Dion. It was a fun idea to do Dion with just like 26 of the guys that you can tap 5 of to go get legendary permanents. And I might want to actually turn it into just a mono white Knights deck. I don't know. I'm undecided. But that said, I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to talk about one of the decks that I mentioned today. Probably Choco. I don't know. Maybe Oran. I do like mono white. Anyway, I'll take a quick break. When I come back, we're going to talk about one of those. All right. And we're back. Now, I decided not to go with Choco this week, mostly because the first Final Fantasy game that I ever played was Final Fantasy X back in, like, 2003. And it is still one of, if not my favorite, Final Fantasy. So instead, I went with Orin Venerated Guardian. And his type is a little bit of a spoiler for a 23-year-old game, if you care. But he is a 2/5 human spirit samurai for 3 and a white with vigilance and the ability Shooting Star. Whenever Orin attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. When you do, exile target creature defending player controls with power less than Orin's power until Orin leaves the battlefield. So my approach to this deck was a few prongs. The first one being +1/+1 counters, the second one being just like general anthems, and the third one being protection. And I'm going to start with my general anthems. First up there we have the old Spear of Heliod. 1 white white for a legendary enchantment artifact. Creatures you control get +1/+1. And for 1 white white and tap, you can destroy target creature that dealt damage to you this turn. In all the years I played this, I think I've used that ability maybe twice. After that, we have Marshal's Anthem. 2 white white for an enchantment. It has multi-kicker for 1 and a white. Creatures you control get +1/+1, and when it enters the battlefield, return up to X target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the number of times Martial Anthem was kicked. This one also kind of falls into the protection category, because you can use it to get things out of your graveyard. But alas, 'tis an anthem, so goes here. Next up we have Angel of Invention, which is 3 white white for a 2/1 angel with flying, vigilance, and lifelink. It has Fabricate 2, and other creatures you control get +1/+1. Next up, we have the Flowering of the White Tree, white white for a legendary enchantment. Legendary creatures you control get +2/+1 and have Ward 1. Non-legendary creatures you control get +1/+1. And to round out our Anthem section here, we have Heraldic Banner, which over the last couple of years has become just a really decent include for a lot of my 1 and 2 color decks. It's the 3 mana artifact. When it enters, you choose a color. Creatures you control of the chosen color get +1/+0, and it can tap to add 1 mana of the chosen color. Alright, now after that, I want to move into our +1/+1 theme section of the deck. That is things that care about things having counters, putting counters on things, stuff like that. And we're going to start with Captivating Cave. It's a land. It taps for colorless. You can filter it into any one color. But it's here because you can pay for it and tap it to sacrifice it and put 2 counters on target creature, activate only as a sorcery. So it's a pretty easy way to play Orin on 4, play a 5th land, activate Captivating Cave, and all of a sudden Orin has 4 power, right? Next up we have Norn's Choirmaster. 3 white white for a 5/4 Phyrexian Angel with flying and first strike. But whenever a commander you control enters the battlefield or attacks, you get to proliferate. After her, we have Lae'zel, Vlaakith's Champion. 2 and a white for a 3/3 Gith Warrior. If you would put 1 or more counters on a creature or planeswalker you control, or on yourself, you put that many +1 of each of those kinds of counters on that permanent or player instead. It also has Choose a Background, but this is not the direction we went in. Next up, we have the Abzan Falconer. 2 and a white for a 2/3 human soldier. It has Outlast for a white, so that means you can pay a white and tap it to put a counter on the creature. Outlast only as a sorcery, but each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has flying. After that, we have the Luminarch Aspirant. 1 and a white for a 1/1 human cleric. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. After that, we have the Cloud-Boned Moogle. 3 white white for a 2/3 Moogle. It has flying, and whenever this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It also has Plains Cycling for 2. After that, we have Together Forever, which is white white for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you support 2, and you can pay 1 and choose target creature with a counter on it. When this creature dies this turn, return that card to its owner's hand. So that one also kind of falls into the protection category, because we can get Orin back to our hand instead of having to put him into the command zone. It saves us some mana, you know what I mean? Now, next up we have the Surgical Site and Hospital Room, which is one of those enchantment rooms from Duskmourn. So Surgical Suite is 1 and a white for a room. When you unlock this door, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. We do tend to have a lot of cheap creatures in the deck, so this can help get them back. Unfortunately, it doesn't get Orin back from the graveyard because he's 4, but whatever. This is really here for the Hospital Room, which is 3 and a white, and whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. So, yeah. Just stacking all them counters. Next up, we have Genjing's Deserters. 1 and a white for a 1/2 human rebel ally. When this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. We have Inoffensive Kintree Spirit, which is white for a 2/2 Spirit Soldier. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, bolster 1. Sure, Orin has 5 starting defense, so we're probably never going to bolster onto him, but getting other creatures pumped up will also keep people from wanting to attack us in retaliation, hopefully. After that, we have Enoch Bondkin. 1 and a white for a 2/1 dog soldier. It has Outlast for 1 and a white, so you can pay 1 and a white, tap it, put a counter on the creature, only as a sorcery. But each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has first strike. Next up, we have the Great Sword of Tyr, 1 and a white for an equipment. Whenever the equipped creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it and tap up to 1 target creature defending player controls. Equips for a white. This one went in because it kind of plays double duty with, like, helping Orin get through, because you can attack. He puts a counter on himself and exiles something. Then you put another counter on him and tap down a thing that you couldn't exile. So it's just, layering, or whatever the hell they call it. And finally, in this section, we have the Chocobo Knights, which is 3 and a white for a 3/3 human knight. Whenever you attack creatures you control with counters on them, gain double strike until end of turn. And yeah, I'm going to round this out with a third section, which is my protection suite. I'm not going to go through everything in here because, again, I don't do exhaustive deck techs because that would take too long. First up, we have the Loyal Unicorn, 3 and a white for a 3/4 unicorn with Vigilance and Lieutenant. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to creatures you control this turn. Other creatures you control gain Vigilance until end of turn. So, Orin himself already has Vigilance, but that's there to, keep any combat damage from happening to him, and then giving all of my other stuff Vigilance so I can attack with them as well. Next up, we have Skrelv, the Defector Might, which is a single white mana for a 1/1 Phyrexian Might. It has Toxic 1, and Skrelv can't block. But for a Phyrexian white mana and tapping, you can choose a color. Another target creature you control gains Toxic 1 and Hexproof from that color until end of turn, and it can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. So, again, it's really just there to help push Orin through, and I don't necessarily know if Orin is going to turn into, like, full Voltron. I think it's going to end up being more value-based than that. But Skrelv, if we had, like, a reasonable way to always have Skrelv out to, like, help Orin get through, maybe. But we're talking multiple turns to put enough counters on Orin to do a reasonable amount of damage. Next up, we have the Hardened Escort, which is 2 and a white for a 2/4 human soldier. Whenever it attacks, another target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible till end of turn. After that, we have Restoration Magic, which is a single white for an instant, but it has tiers. So for 0, you get Cure, which is target permanent gains hexproof and indestructible till end of turn. You have Cura, so for 1 and a white, you get target permanent gains hexproof and indestructible till end of turn. You gain 3 life. And Curaga for 3 white, permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible till end of turn. You gain 6 life. After that, we have Audric, Master Tactician, 2 white for a 3/4 human soldier with first strike. Whenever him and at least 3 other creatures attack, you choose which creatures block this combat and how those creatures block. So, again, if you're going wide, you just get to say, hey, you guys don't block at all. And we're going to round this out with Vexilus Praetor, 3 and a white for a 3/4 Custodes Warrior. It has Flash, Vigilance, and Aegis of the Emperor. Commanders you control have protection from everything. So, Unfortunately, protection from everything includes itself. So the the Praetor is really there to like be used as like a one time, hey, I need to save my guy. But yeah, that's kind of the deck in a nutshell. I know there's still a few things missing from it. Like I don't have the other Odric that like spreads out abilities. But yeah, that's kind of it. It I've played it once so far, and it did the thing. It wasn't terribly oppressive, but it did draw some hate because people don't like you taking their stuff. But yeah, I think that's where I'm going to call it. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you for listening. All of my links can be found in my link tree in the description below. I would like to thank Ian Foss and Cody Mulvey of the band The Crypt for allowing me to use music for my opening and ending, along with Nate and Erica Jacobs for making my original logo. And I would also like to thank Christina McNichol for creating my new logo. And I'll see you next time.